everybody, and welcome to Splash Studio online, of course. My name is Alyssa, and I'm going to be taking you guys step by step through this wonderful painting we call Red Tree Horizon. This is actually kind of one of my favorite paintings. I think it's really pretty, and it would look good in a lot of people's houses. So feel free to relax, grab a drink, enjoy this step-by-step tutorial on how to paint this beautiful masterpiece. I'm sure once you are done, you're going to love your results. But I'm basically going to be showing you how we're going to get started, all your materials in front of you. Some of you, I'm sure, purchased a splash kit. So all of this stuff should be included with your kit. But if you are just grabbing a canvas at home, paint that you have laying around, feel free to still follow along. It's going to be a fun, relaxing activity for everyone to do while they're stuck inside. So to go over all of the materials that you guys should have, you guys are all going to have an 11 by 14 canvas. Like I said, if you bought the kit, the example here is definitely on a bigger canvas, so we're just kind of shrinking it down a little bit. But the other materials that are included, you guys should have 4 brushes. You should have a large flat brush, a slightly smaller flat brush, a medium round brush, and then a really smaller brush, and that is what we call our detail brush. So those should all be wrapped around a wonderful rag you'll be using throughout the session. And we are going to actually put all of our brushes right away in a water cup. It can just be a good old solo cup, does not have to be anything fancy. Same goes with your palette. This is literally a paper plate. If you guys received one in the kit, great. If you guys have a fancy schmancy palette you want to use, you guys can do that as well. Completely up to you. And then you guys should have a bunch of paint. Once again, if you got the kit, they should probably have come in one of these little containers. So feel free throughout to put it kind of onto your palette and mix all the colors that we're going to be needing. But pretty much to get started with this painting, we are going to start by focusing on the top half of the canvas, and we are going to be making a light gray color. So as you can kind of see, the horizon cuts between the sky and the ground, and then we have the trees on the actual horizon line. So to start off, we're going to be mixing up a light gray. So you guys are going to want to find your large flat brush, so that is going to be the largest brush that we have. Dry that off a little bit. Now to make gray, we are going to want to do black and white. But what I will say is if you add too much black, it's going to be way too dark, and if you add too much white, it's going to be very light. So kind of, you got to feel the paint, see if you kind of want your sky to be a bit darker, a bit lighter. In this example, it is a little bit on the lighter side. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by grabbing white paint. I'm just going to pick a little corner of my palette to mix that up in. And then we're going to scoop just a little bit of black in there. And you'll kind of see as you're mixing it, you'll realize, oh, I either need to make this a little lighter, a little darker. So looking at mine, I need to make mine slightly darker, slightly lighter, my bad. So once I kind of have a gray color that I like, we are just going to be doing simple brush strokes going back and forth. Like I said, we are focusing only on the top half of our canvas. So I kind of like to right away kind of pick a horizon line. And I'm going to call it about right here, I would say. And so now once I kind of have this pinpointed out, I can even possibly go down a little bit. I feel like the camera's the canvas looks a little bit tilted on the camera. But you're just going to focus on filling in that top half with the light gray color. And it's okay if you do creep down a little bit from your horizon line. It does not have to be perfect. We are going to be covering this with the trees and everything else going on. So just focus on coloring in the entire top half with the light gray. Alrighty everyone, so once you kind of have this gray color put into your sky, we are going to start focusing on the bottom half of the canvas, which is actually kind of a fun part, and I will show you guys a little bit closer in my example. these brush strokes are going to be very free, very loose, kind of almost messy looking, like paint is dripping. So it's kind of a lot more fun. I would say the most fun part of the painting is probably going to be the ground for everybody. But to start off, we're actually going to be going back and forth between using brown and black. So I'm going to use the exact same brush that I had. So I'm just going to rinse it off just a little bit. So first I'm going to add the black, and you can put as much black as you want. You can put not a lot of black if you want, but it is pretty much a pretty dark colored ground. So we are going to put a good amount of black, but you're just going to be very loose with your brush strokes, and you're just going to place black all throughout the painting in a horizontal motion. So as you can see, I'm leaving chunks of white, which is completely fine because you're going to want to do that so you can add more colors and more layers on top of this. So I'm kind of just working from bottom to top, filling in spots with black. Like I said, you can be very free about it. If you want the brush strokes to be kind of slimmer, more choppy, you guys can definitely do that. It's definitely up to you. Everyone's is going to look different. Have enough black placed within your painting, we are now going to move on to adding some brown over top and kind of in between where you left white spots. So I'm actually going to switch to using my medium round brush instead, just because I don't want as much brown as I had black. But if you want to stick with using the same brush, you definitely can. Just make sure you rinse it off a bit. But like I said, it's going to be a pure brown color. And we're going to be doing the exact same thing, very loose brush strokes. And it's okay if your paint is still white, you actually kind of want it to be, just because it helps kind of blend the colors a little bit better. So feel free to pick spots that you want brown. And like I mentioned before, you guys can definitely feel free to add as much brown as you want, as little brown as you want. We will be adding quite a bit more colors within. So feel free to put that wherever. If you guys are using these little easels, feel free to pop your canvas right out of that and kind of put some paint in those areas that the easels were, because you want to make sure that you fill your entire canvas with paint. Guys, so another color that we can add before we kind of let things dry is kind of a reddish brown color. We are going to actually be adding a lot more red to the painting, but using kind of a different method with our brush strokes. So to start off, we're just going to be making a brownish red and doing the exact same thing we did with the black and brown. So using that same medium round brush, just going to give it a little bit of a rinse, and keeping with the same brown paint you had, I'm going to grab a little bit more, and I'm going to go ahead, grab some red paint and mix it right into the brown. So everyone's is probably going to look slightly different in color, but it's kind of going to be like a rusty red color. And once again, you're just going to go over some areas maybe that you left in white, just going right over that black and that brown. You're just kind of feeling out the painting as to like how much of what color you want, because this is yours. Does not have to look exactly like the painting. Chances are it's not going to look identical to the painting. So just kind of have fun with this step and really get the colors where you want it. We will be moving on shortly to some more colors and some more different techniques. So it's not just gonna be this boring back and forth motion. We are gonna do some different cool brush stroke techniques. But finish your underneath ground area of your painting, and we will be going on a little break after you guys finish that, and we will be moving on to some more fun techniques and some more colors added on top. Alrighty guys, coming back from our break. Hope you enjoyed yours. We are going to be continuing to work on the bottom half of our painting. So this is where it gets really fun. We actually get to do some different brush strokes, which is super fun and something different. But what we're going to be doing is first using red. So all of these steps, it's going to be the exact same brush strokes, but I'm going to show you the method first in red, and then we will be repeating colors using the same technique throughout the bottom half of our canvas. So I, once again, am going to continue to use that medium round brush. So just kind of drying it off a little bit. We're going to take pure red, like I said, not mixing with anything. I'm going to find a little spot on my palette. You're going to want a decent amount. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to actually put it on our brush very thick and kind of very like goopy. So you're going to want to grab a lot of that red paint. And you're going to pick spots on your canvas for out these next couple colors and layers as to where you want them. But the method of how we are actually going to apply the paint, it's not going to be brush strokes. We're actually going to be taking that big gob of paint that we have, and we're just going to be kind of going back and forth, twisting our brush in different areas of the canvas. So things might be kind of drippy, and as you add colors, things might run into other things. But that's totally okay, because that is the whole effect of this painting. But like I said, make sure you're using a pretty generous amount of red. This will look more drippy and more loose. It's not going to look like what we just did. That's why we let that layer dry. Just kind of choosing different spots that you want red. As I mentioned before, you know, if you want more red in one area, feel free. If you don't want as much red, you don't have to. So I'm just turning the brush, like I said, just kind of twisting it, kind of letting things drip down a little bit. You can even kind of help them drip down, pull the paint down. It's almost kind of like watercolor, but you're using acrylics. Alright, so once you guys kind of have the red established within your painting, you guys can now feel free to go back using those colors that we already did. So if you now want to repeat the step, you can go ahead and start doing the same method with brown and with black. We are also going to make kind of more of a tan color laid on top as well. We're going to add some white in there. So first off, I would say do the colors that we just did. So feel free to do this step again using black. Once you have that on there, do it again using brown. And then I will show you guys how to mix up kind of a more tan color and where we're going to want to put our whites. So once you kind of have that black and brown in there, I'm just going to show you mine up close a little bit better. As you can see, it's very drippy. Trying to show you in the best lighting. So it should look something kind of like this. If you want a different approach and did some different types of brush strokes, totally fine. You just want to make sure that it is all blended nicely. You got some different colors. If they're overlapping, that is perfect. But now I'm going to show you guys how to mix up kind of a more tan color. Because now we're going to start kind of adding some lighter colors within the ground, just kind of bringing back some more of that light, because we have a very dark, harsh bottom part of our canvas. So with the exact same medium round brush, we are going to be mixing up brown and white to get a tan. So as you're kind of mixing, you'll see that either your tan looks a little too dark or it looks a little too light. So if it does look a little too dark, just keep adding white to it. If it tends to look a little too light, then you're going to want to add some more brown to it. So once you kind of mix it up, you'll see what kind of tan you want to get. This one is kind of fairly light, so I'm going to keep it a little bit on the lighter side. But if you guys kind of want it to be a bit darker, like I said, totally go for it. So mine kind of looks like this. So what I'm going to do is the exact same thing. However, I'm going to kind of go in between doing the exact same method we did and then also relaying over just some normal brush strokes just to kind of really blend in all these colors and get a big old jumble of different colors at the bottom. So once again, twisting my brush in some areas and then kind of pulling the paint through with brush strokes as well. And by doing so, you are going to get some of these colors on your brush, but that's totally okay because as you can see in the original, a lot of the colors look like they are kind of getting pulled together. So that's definitely the look that you want to achieve. But just like I said, go back and forth between doing the twisting method and also just kind of doing normal brush strokes, pulling that tan color in between spots that you would like it to be. Once you guys have that tan in place, you can feel free to do the same method with white. However, if you see the example over here, there's kind of just really little spots of white. So feel free to kind of add a little less white and just put those in certain areas where you want it to be a little lighter. You're going to want to maybe rinse off your brush just one more time. And then using the pure white paint, I'm just kind of going to add some very quick little brush strokes of white throughout the painting. And once again, as you are mixing them, this paint is wet, so it is going to blend, but that's okay. Alright guys, so I hope you got all the colors in your ground space that you wanted. We are now going to be focusing on that horizon line and starting to put our trees in. We are already almost to the point where we are finishing up the painting because all that is left is the trees. So what we're going to do now is there is kind of a darker gray that is right on the horizon line, and it's kind of just right by the trees, kind of going under them as well. So we're going to be mixing that up. So once again, we are going to be using our medium round brush for this. And we're going to be making kind of the same gray that we did in the sky, however it's going to be slightly darker. So once again, that is white and black, but this time you're going to want to add just a tiny bit more black than you did the first time. So mixing up white and black, you don't need a whole lot. You just want it to look a bit darker than what your background is. So even kind of holding up your palette against your painting kind of helps just to see what needs to be darker, what needs to be added to your paint. So I'm going to add just a tiny bit more black. And then once you do have that dark gray color that you want, these brush strokes are going to be also kind of very loose, very sketchy looking. But I'm going to just go from left to right. And I'm almost just kind of squiggling the brush up and down, and that's going to be right on the horizon line. You can feel free to dip down a bit from the horizon line too, but I'm just keeping it very, very small. It doesn't go up super high. I'm just keeping that same brush stroke motion, very free. You can kind of come back in, bring some things down a bit more on the horizon line. And I will show you guys mine. So basically, like I said, you're just focusing from left to right, kind of filling in this kind of shadowy part that we're gonna have on the back behind our trees once we put those in there. Alright everyone, so now on to the fun part of doing our trees. So we are actually going to be using our smallest brush for these just because we are working on a smaller canvas. If you are working on a bigger canvas, feel free to use that medium round brush or even the smaller flat brush, whatever is more comfortable for you. But we are going to be sticking with black for the trees, at least for the bases that is. So that is going to be just normal black. Once again, I'm just picking a spot on my palette to have the black ready. Now to space out these trees, the traditional painting, there is 7 of them. If you wanted to add more, you guys definitely can. If you wanted to add less, you definitely can, but I'm going to show you guys how to set up 7 and for them to actually look like they're together in a cluster, because a lot of times people have trouble kind of placing their trees in certain ways for it to look good. But these are going to be very basic trees, so there's no need to worry. But you guys are basically going to want to start with the middle tree just to kind of section off, okay, I have 1 middle tree, so I need 3 on each side. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm actually going to start by just making a little triangle shape in the middle of my canvas. So I'm going to do my best to kind of pinpoint the middle, and you're going to want to place it right in between your ground and then that dark gray you just made. So you're making like a little triangle. You don't even have to really fill it in. It's kind of just like an upside down V. But you're going to want to put that in the center of your canvas. So once again, I will show you guys. Very simple, just a little triangle shape. And once you guys have that established on there, this will make it a lot easier for you to space out where the rest of your trees are going to go. So you're actually just making like, you know, the stumps or the actual like bottom part of the tree, the trunks. So these are going to be very, very simple, and you're just going to be making 3 lines on each side. So you're going to want to try and gauge where you want to space them out, because you know, you might have one that's slightly closer than the other on one side, but that's definitely okay. These are trees. Nature is definitely not perfect. So I'm just going to see where I had my triangle, and I'm actually going to do the right side first. And I'm just going to go in the same spot, kind of maybe like an inch away from where I had the triangle, and bring that up, just a straight line. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can choose how high up you want this to go. If you want it to go all the way up here, you can. This painting does show kind of a lot of sky, so it's really up to you as to how tall you want these trees. But then once again, I'm gonna do another about an inch away, and I'm gonna do another one. And if you want, you can have some to be a little taller than others. They can be the same size if you want. We are gonna be adding over top once we do put that red leaf color. So feel free to kind of space those how you want and how big you want them. And then once again, other side, 1 more tree. And it's kind of nice once you finish one side, take a breather, and then you guys can continue to do the left side. Alright guys, so once you feel pretty confident as to where you placed your trees, I'm going to go ahead and still use my smallest brush and still using black paint. I'm now going to do the bottoms of the trees. So what you're going to do is it's going to be the exact same as you did this first triangle. And the only reason I didn't build this tree up yet is just to kind of keep it as a reference. What you guys are going to want to do is you're going to want to go to the bottom of each one of your trees, and you're going to make a little triangle shape. And those can branch off a little bit because they're not perfect triangles at the bottom. You can kind of just add some roots to it, maybe pull them a little bit further. But you're really just making the bottoms of the trees as best as you can, as much as you think it looks like the bottom of a tree. It does not have to be perfect. It can definitely be very suggested. I will show you guys my side just to give you kind of a glance. So they're just kind of like triangles, and then I kind of pulled off from them a little bit just to make them a little bit more like they're sunk into the ground like roots. So go ahead and do that on the other side as well. And then once you guys have those roots in there, the bottoms of your tree, you can feel free then to do the middle one. Once again, I'm going to just add to the bottom of it and then pull that all the way up. And feel free now if you need to make any adjustments, if you want your trees to be a little thicker before we add the leaves. You guys can definitely do that now that you kind of have the base of the tree done. It's a little bit easier to kind of look at them and be like, oh, this one needs to be a little thicker, or I need to adjust something with this tree. So feel free to do that. Like I said, these trees are very, very simple. It's nothing too complex with them. If you want, you can also start to kind of see, oh, I would like to add more gray toward the bottom. This one definitely has kind of a bit of a lighter gray. Mine got a little bit dark towards the top, so feel free to kind of come back in and also add some gray in there, but you can also do that at the end as well. Alrighty guys, so if you have fixed the bottom of your trees and everything looks great, we are going to move on to the tops of the leaves, which are going to be bright red. So we will be adding a little bit of shading to them, but it's strictly mainly just going to be just our solid red color that we have. I'm going to be using my medium round brush for this, so make sure that is nice and cleaned off. So to make these kind of trees, we are going to be doing a very simple kind of dabbing movement with our brush with the red paint. So I'm going to kind of just pick a tree. I'm going to start off with the middle one, I think, and then work my way. As you can see, these ones in the front are a little bit more full and they look like they're coming more forward, and then there's some in the back. So I think sticking kind of with either the back ones first or the front ones first are a good idea. It just kind of helps gauge in between how big you need to make them. So by starting with the front trees, it's going to be 3 of them that are in the front and 4 of them that are more in the back. So pretty much to do a dabbing motion with your brush, you're just kind of blotting it on like this. And it's okay if you have some spots that are open, but when you are dabbing this on, you kind of want to keep a very circular or ovalish type of shape to your trees. And once again, they can go as high up as you'd like. You can make them as small as you want, but you're going to just keep doing this. And you want the first 3, like I said, to be fairly larger than the other ones. So that's why I'm going to stick to doing those first. So we skip a tree, go to the next one. And like I said, this is going to be around the same height, same size. And the trees don't have to be like perfect circles either. If you want some things kind of branching off from them, you know, the leaves can look a little bit more rough. They don't have to be perfect. And then I'm going to move on once again to the left, skip one. And this will be the final big tree. They can touch, that's totally okay. Alright, so once you guys have either the 3 front trees done, or if you decided to do the back trees, now switch and do the opposite. We're still going to be using red paint. Like I said, we will be doing some other layers, so right now they do kind of just look like some weird giant lollipops or something in the background. But now I'm going to be doing the smaller trees. So for this, like I had mentioned earlier, we're going to keep them a bit smaller because they are supposed to be more in the background. So we're doing the same motion. However, I am just bringing the trees up just a little bit smaller. Things are going to overlap, but we will kind of establish where those were once we add some more shading to them. So these are kind of hidden in the back more, but you can still tell that they're connected and they're still trees. Yeah, so once you have the red placed in there, we are going to be doing some shading to the trees, which is basically still using red, but we're actually going to be mixing black in there just to make them a little bit darker. So I am going to continue to use my medium round brush, and it is okay if there is still some red on there. It doesn't have to be completely clean, but we're just going to take some black, and then like I said, we're going to mix red in there. And once again, you'll see once you start mixing your colors if you need to make them a little darker, a little bit lighter. So I mixed up a pretty good deep red color. Yours might look a little bit blacker, which is totally okay. They're pretty dark in this picture, so what you're going to want to do is we're going to be doing the exact same motions that we were doing, However, your smaller trees are going to be a slightly bit darker because they are more towards the back. And we are going to stick with kind of the bottoms of the trees being the shadows, which would make sense, as in nature, light comes from above. So there's going to be a shadow towards the bottom. So I'm going to stick with doing the front trees first, just to kind of differentiate in between where my trees are, because they all kind of got jumbled a little bit. So we're going to see where my front tree was, and just kind of dabbing once again. I'm kind of circling it off a little bit and just making my tree, like I said, a little bit darker. And I'm not adding a whole lot, it's just the bottoms of the trees. So once again, find that other front tree I had, add some shadow. The red is definitely going to mix with this dark color, but that's okay because you just mixed a dark red anyway. So once you kind of have those first front trees done, it makes it a little bit easier then to kind of focus on the back, just because they're separated again. So feel free to the back ones. You're going to do the exact same thing, but like I said, they're going to be a little bit darker. So you're going to add just a bit more shadow to those ones. So feel free to really make those ones just a bit darker and add a little bit more of a pop to the front ones. Still make sure that you have some red in those back ones, but you're going to mainly fill those in with your darker red, just because they are behind the other ones. Alright guys, so I'm sure your trees are looking marvelous. I'm going to show mine just up close. So yours should look somewhat like this. If you kept some white spots open, that's totally okay, because we are still going to be adding some finer detailed branches in between. But as of right now, we are going to let all of this stuff dry for our trees before we add those in. So once again, feel free to add in anything else you need for the trees before you let this dry. Feel free to grab a drink before the next step, and we will be back shortly. Welcome back from the break, guys. Alrighty, so if we are all ready to go, we are now going to do the small detailed branches within the trees. So looking at this one, the branches are only seen in the first 3 trees that are more towards our view in the front. So the back ones are basically done. They're going to stay how they are, but we are going to be focusing on the front 3, and we are first going to be using black as the first layer of the branches. So I'm going to be using my small detail brush. Dry that off a little bit. So like I said, using just pure black paint, we are going to be making branches. So to make a branch, branches I would say are fairly easy, because what you're going to want to do is, it's a lot of squiggly lines and then adding smaller squiggly lines to those lines. So what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to look as to where the base of the tree was, where it meets the leaves. I'm going to go from there, and I'm just going to make some really skinny, just different squiggly lines that kind of branch off of that. So I made like 3 of them. So once you guys kind of have that established, which I will show you up close. So once you guys have something like that on those trees, then you can build off of those and start adding some smaller ones. So by doing that, these look way more like branches, and you can add as many as you want, as few as you want. But the whole purpose to show the branches, it's just kind of an extra little cool thing to add to this type of painting, instead of it just being these random red trees, not a whole lot going on with them. So continue that throughout the painting. Almost kind of look like veins, you can think of it in that sense too. And they can overlap a little bit. but you're just kind of doing really small little lines, making it pretty detailed. This is how my front one looks, and then I'm going to continue that, like I said, with the other two front ones. You are not doing anything with the back trees. If you really want to, you guys can try, but with this painting, we are only focusing on the front. So the final step, guys, to this painting is going to be adding just a little tiny bit more gray. We're going to be adding that within the branches that you just made, and then kind of pulling it back throughout the painting, kind of more so by the horizon line. So I'm going to continue to use the smallest brush, so the small detail brush. Once again, we're going to be mixing up white and gray. So I would say we're going to be making a pretty equal parts white and black type of gray. And it can be as dark, as light, does not matter. But if your branches are still wet, that's totally okay, because this is kind of just blending just a little bit of a lighter shade into that black. You're just going to kind of go over some parts of your branches right on top of them with the gray. You do not have to do all of them. You can keep some of them a little bit darker. You're just kind of going through and making some of those branches just a little bit lighter, just to give them a little bit more of a pop. And you can even feel free to kind of pull that gray color down into the base of your tree as well. You don't have to just do it on the branches. Mentioned earlier, once you kind of finish the gray within your branches, you can feel free to kind of start putting that gray back down on your horizon line. If you want, totally up to you. Also, if you want to add any gray to some of those back trees, you can do that as well. Kind of helps mixing between some different kinds of grays. You can achieve different shadows with that. I just did one gray and overlaid it on top. I will show you guys mine up close once I'm done. But like I said, now feel free to kind of just re-add in some gray in areas that you think might need it. I'm going to add mine just a little bit towards the bottom, kind of just sticking with the same pattern that I was doing at the bottom. Very like fuzzy, loose brush strokes, just kind of bringing in some more of that gray color back. Mine just got a little bit too dark, which tends to happen sometimes. So feel free to add in some more gray to your horizon line and anywhere else in this painting. Alrighty, so the final step that I have for you guys is going to be adding some white to your sky if you would like. Once again, as I mentioned earlier, any other lighter colors you want to add, you definitely can. I fixed my horizon line a bit so it's a little bit lighter. The white is very optional. Some people will put it in their paintings, others just like the gray. But if you so choose, you can add just a tiny bit of white. You don't need a whole lot. I'm kind of just dabbing it off onto my palette and just kind of mixing it in through the sky. So if you want to achieve this look, like I said, it's just normal white, kind of just dabbing a lot of it off and putting it throughout my sky. Completely up to you how you guys want this to look. If you wanted to add any other colors to your sky, you can definitely do that. Just be careful of your trees. Alrighty guys, so the last and final thing that I'm going to have everyone do is to sign your paintings at the bottom. So I'm going to use just a little bit of white paint, and I just like to do my initial in the corner. But other than that, you are finished with your painting. This is how mine turned out. Your guys should look similar, if not better. But I hope you guys had a great time painting these today. Feel free to check out more of our other videos that are posted on Facebook. And feel free to share yours and your final results on Facebook and Instagram. Tag us, share our videos, and keep painting with us. I had a great time painting this with you guys, and I hope you guys did as well. Stay safe out there and have a great rest of your day.